Bon après-midi à tous, and welcome everyone to the Committee of Adjustment hearing, Panel 1, Urban. We are a quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances and consents to sever, among a few other types of applications that are not as common. Our hearings are back to being in person. However, the committee can enable remote participation by video conferencing when requested by registered speakers, and that's extended to agents and applicants as well. You are being live streamed on YouTube, and the video and the agenda are available for future viewing on the committee's website. My name is Anne Tremblay. I'll be chairing the hearing today, and with me are my fellow panel members, starting on my right, Member Blatherwick, Member Lecueilly, Member Coakley, and Member Keklikan. So in terms of the procedure, you saw an agenda at the beginning of the hearing. It's up to the chair's discretion to decide whether or not we go that route, and we will be mixing it up a little bit today. We do have some unopposed applications that we'll be dealing with first. We have no adjournments, so we're going to go directly to those once I've finished these opening remarks. So note that the members have reviewed all of the materials related to the application before us today, including the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition of the application. So we do receive that material in advance of the hearing, and then we even have a pre-meet before the hearing to catch up on any last-minute information that's come in on applications. So we know our files when we hear delegations. So, and that's in fact what the real point is today, is to gather further evidence from either the applicant or the agent and members of the public. So as part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant is required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing, and they're also required to confirm in writing that that sign has in fact been posted in keeping with the regulations under the Planning Act, and we have all of those stat decks in with us today. That's good. So the panel essentially can proceed in a number of different ways. So we can either so we have the unopposed, and that's a very fast-tracked sort of process. Or we may ask just questions of an applicant, or we may ask for a presentation. In all cases, if anyone wants to do a presentation before the committee, that's totally okay. And all you need to do is signal that to me, and we will hear your presentation. So please address your comments to me as the chair, starting with your name and spelling it if necessary. If you're on the speaker's record, and I don't believe I have any members of the public on the speakers list today, do start with your name and your municipal address, and I may need you to spell out your last name. So we also have a 5-minute rule for speakers, and any extension of that is at my discretion. So at the end of the hearing on an application, the panel can make an oral decision, or we can reserve on our decision. In the latter case, the committee's decision will not be delivered during the course of the hearing. Doesn't mean we don't make a decision. We make a decision before we all go home this evening, but you will not get the decision until it arrives within 10 days from the hearing, which is outlines essentially the reasons, the committee's decision and the reasons for it. And the participants and anyone else who's requested a copy of the decision will get that decision. So now, turning to some preliminary and procedural matters. First thing I need to do is call for any declarations of conflict of interest for any of the items either on our agenda today or on panel 2 or 3 yesterday. Anyone? All right, seeing no declarations of conflict of interest, I don't believe we have any minutes to approve, right? Yeah, where's my little cheat sheet? Yeah, so no minutes to confirm at this point. And no adjournments or withdrawals. So we're going to go straight to our unopposed list, and we have a number that we're going to deal with. So we have applications 2, 160 Sunnyside Avenue, 4, 1 Mount Pleasant Avenue, 6, 424 Churchill Avenue, and number 7, 37 Kenora Street. I'm going to make one call out to anyone who wants to speak to the committee about any one of those applications. Just let me know now, or come down. Anybody online? Otherwise, the committee will go to a vote on all of those applications. All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so members, I think we can vote on the applications, and we're doing it as a bundle. All those in favor? All right, so for the record, the decision is unanimous. All of those applications are granted. Okay, so that brings us to the next applications, which are the ones for which we need some presentation. So we're going to go in order, starting with number 1, which is 10 Arthur Street. Good afternoon. Can I have your name and municipal address for the record?
Hi, there's Jeff Kelly from Novatech.
And with you today is
I'm with my client, Ravi Shingavi.
municipal address, please.
326 Churchill Avenue, Ottawa.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. So in this case, the committee would like a presentation from you. I take it you've submitted a PowerPoint?
Yep.
Perfect. Then floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So again, my name is Jeff Kelly from Novatech. I'm here joined by my client, Ravi Shingavi, and I think Murray Chan is also online from Novatech to present applications for minor variances and consent on 10 Arthur Street. Next slide, please. So I'll quickly go through the context. The site is located in West Centertown neighborhood to the north of Somerset, south of Primrose Avenue East, west of Bronson, and east of Empress. Subject site is an interior lot with an area of 614 square meters and a frontage of 20.3 meters along Arthur. Subject site is designated neighborhood within the evolving neighborhood overlay in the downtown core transect of the OP. It's also zoned residential fourth density subzone UD in the zoning bylaw, and just I'll note there that the long semi-detached dwelling form is permitted in that zone. Next slide, please. So looking at the plan, it's 2 3-story long semi-detached dwellings proposed, and each having frontage on Arthur. There's a total of 6 dwelling units provided in each long semi. So in each building, there's 3 on the front and 3 on the rear half of the building. And there's a total of 12 dwelling units provided as part of the development. There's also a shared driveway between the lots, providing access to parking spaces located in the rear off of Arthur. And with that, there's 2 parking spaces provided for each long semi. The development is proposed to conform with all provisions of the zoning bylaw with the exception of building height. Next slide, please. It's just the image before you here showing the design intent as a representation of what's being proposed. The exact materials and colors here are not finalized, but it's just to kind of show that the building materials will be a fit with the existing streetscape in the area along Arthur. Next slide, please. Just with respect to proximity to transit, the subject site is located within 600 meters, about 9 minutes walking of the Pimisi O train station. It's also within 150 meters of lands designated Main Street along Bronson Avenue. So having this proximity to transit, the site is in a suitable location to support intensification. So now I'll walk through the consent applications quickly for severance. Next slide, please. So just with respect to severance application 1, it's to create the lot labeled as part 1 and 2 on the draft reference plan. It has 307.3 square meters of area and a depth of 30.2 meters with a frontage of 10.19 meters on Arthur. Occupied by 1 long semi, and there's also going to be an easement over parts 3 and 4. An easement for parts 3 and 4 required over part 2, and that's to provide access to rear yard parking. Next slide, please.
Sorry, can I interrupt? Do you have a slide that shows those easements?
We do not. It would be on the draft reference plan. So severance application 2 is parts 3 and 4 on the draft reference plan. So a total area of 306.9 square meters, a depth of 30.2 meters, and a frontage of 10.19 meters on Arthur. Again, occupied by 1 long semi-detached dwelling. And there's an easement here in favor of parts 1 and 2 over part 3, again, to provide access to rear yard parking. So just a summary of the consent application. The proposal does not necessitate construction of new public infrastructure. including roads and services, and a plan of subdivision is not required for the proper and orderly development of the municipality. Proposed severances are within urban area and have regard for matters of provincial interest. They are not premature or in line with the public interest. They conform to policies of the official plan with regards to infill and intensification, and they will result in lots that fully conform with the R4UD zone provisions for lot width and lot area for a semi-detached dwelling. So with that, the proposed severances meet the criteria of subsection 5124 of the Planning Act and represent good land use planning. Next slide, please. So with respect to the requested variances, variances A and B, one for each lot, they're just to request a maximum building height of 11 meters, whereas 10 meters is the maximum permitted for a long semi in the R4UD zone. So I'll just walk through each of the four tests. Next slide, please. So the first test for minor variance is that the general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. Subject site is located within the evolving overlay, and policies of the official plan for the evolving overlay state that the city will generally be supportive of applications for low-rise intensification that seek to amend the development standards of the underlying zone. So policies of the official plan in this case are supportive of moving beyond the development standards of the underlying R4UD zone in this location, which includes building heights that are greater than permitted by provisions of the zoning bylaw. And in this case is to facilitate the proposed form of modular housing that's being designed here. Proposed development would contribute to achieving intensification objectives by providing additional dwelling units in a form of development that is compatible with the surrounding context. And the minor variances maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Next slide, please. Second test for minor variance is that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained. So the subject site is zoned R4UD, which permits a mix of residential building forms ranging from detached to low-rise apartments, and in this case, long semi-detached dwellings are permitted. Proposed development meets all performance standards for the development, with the exception of building height, as previously mentioned. Provisions of the R4UD zone permit a maximum height of 10 meters, whereas 11 is required for requested for each of these buildings. Low-rise residential uses, including long semi-detached dwellings, up to 4 stories in building height are generally permitted by provisions of the R4UD zone. And the proposed dwellings are compatible with the residential development along Arthur and will contribute to maintaining residential character of the neighborhood. Requested minor variances are meeting the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So the third test for minor variance is that the minor variance is considered desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land. So there's 2 main points here to bring up. First, being that the buildings are proposed to be developed using a modular construction method. So as highlighted on the image before you here in pink, modular construction, it requires the use of some additional structural elements for the purposes of shipping the modules to the site and also for assembly on site. So using a standard 9-foot clear ceiling height inside the building, modular construction does result in a minor increase to the maximum height requirements for a 3-story building when it's compared to a conventional construction method as seen on the left. So the objective here is to increase construction quality and efficiency that in turn would reduce the total construction cost and increase the speed of the building process. And this is desirable given that there is an urgent need for housing in the city of Ottawa. Next slide, please. So secondly, it's that the proposed buildings are appropriate within the existing context. So there's several buildings here with frontage along Arthur identified on the slide before you that have building heights that are greater than are permitted by the provisions of the bylaw. So as shown here on the figure, there are building heights along Arthur ranging from 3 stories at 9 Arthur, 31 Arthur, and 51 Arthur. 4 stories, which is immediately to the north, a low-rise apartment building at 54 Primrose. And then 1 property further to the south at 40 Arthur, which is a total of 12 stories. Next slide, please. Just to look at that from the street view. So again, immediately to the north of the subject site, 4-story low-rise apartment, and further to the south, a 12-story apartment building. So the proposed development is an example of infill that does have regard for the existing uses and built form of the neighborhood. And at a height of 11 meters, the proposed 3-story building is designed well to fit within the Arthur streetscape context. So increased building height on the subject site is consistent with the built form context of the neighborhood and will facilitate infill and intensification in the area. Requested minor variances are compatible with the existing patterns of residential development along Arthur and in the surrounding neighborhood. And finally, the fourth test, the next slide, please. That the minor variance is considered minor in nature. So variances A and B are each requested to permit an increased maximum building height by 1 meter for each proposed lot. And there's a 1 meter increase in the maximum permitted building height is, of course, I would consider a minor increase to the zoning provision. Proposed development meets all other performance standards for long semis with, again, the exception of building height. So in that case, the requested increased building height on the subject site is consistent with the character of the surrounding context and would have no impact on the streetscape or the functionality of the site. So the requested variances are considered minor in nature. Next slide, please. So just in summary, I'll note that the city staff have also advised that the department has no concerns with these applications. The committee has been provided with uncontested professional planning evidence that the requested severances meet these criteria of Section 5124 of the Planning Act, and that the requested minor variances for increased height meet the 4 tests as cited out in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. So we would ask that the committee approve the applications as filed. And thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly, for that comprehensive presentation and for introducing the modular construction and some of the particularities of those. We haven't really seen that kind of construction before us, but I expect that that's it's probably a trend coming forward. So thank you for that explanation. We appreciate it. With that, then, I'm going to open it up to questions from the panel. Anyone? Yes, Member Blatherwick.
Mr. Kelly, I'm just looking at your site plan, which is figure 2. And I'm wondering if your applicant would be conducive to constructing a 2.1 meter high sandwich board wood fence along the outside boundaries of the rear yards to prevent spillover lighting from the 4 vehicles that are going to be parked back there.
Yes, that's the plan.
So if we add that as a condition, you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Member Kecklican, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I heard mention of, among a number of things, functionality in your presentation, and I just, in the spirit of ensuring safe functionality of the site, particularly with relation to the parking, I'm just wondering if you have determined the appropriate turning radius for the vehicle, the passenger vehicles that are to be parked in the rear. Is it within some sort of design guideline? Have you demonstrated that somewhere?
So we have not run auto turn for this. Perhaps Ravi, if you had any.
I've built 12 buildings like this in the past without issue with varying age groups from quite older folks to younger folks, managing to park and get in and out without any complaints. I think that's the important part where I don't have tenants telling me I cannot get out of the rear yards. And the buildings have been built in a similar fashion.
Yeah, the spaces look to be, within the standards, and just wondered about the turning radius, how that was determined. But if you haven't had any, incidents or in other areas, I'm assuming that it's acceptable.
During heavy snowfalls, and all the snow does come out from the back to the front and it piles up, and then we remove it. So snow is the only consideration.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
And I would just add to that that we did provide 6.7 meters between the parking spaces, and the parking spaces are the standard.
Yeah, no, I noticed that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Member Coakley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just confess to a little bit of confusion between figures 3 and figure 9, not in your presentation here, but in the material you submitted ahead of time. I get your point about modular, but the pictures or the drawings you provided in figure 3 are flat roofs, which would appear not to trigger the need for excess height. whereas the sketch you provided in figure 9 is a peaked roof, which takes you above that level. So kind of how do we square the circle on those?
So I would just say that the sketches are used for illustrative purposes only, and they've been created for several of my clients' projects. But if you wanted to speak to that, Ravi, why it's 9 feet inside, and that's basically the reason why additional height is required.
If I was putting a peaked roof on this building, which I would much prefer, I would be asking for additional height. It would be a flat roof here. It was, as Jeff said, just for illustration to give people a concept that this box driving down the road needs a roof to it.
And Madam Chair, I mean, this is perhaps a bit of a rhetorical question at this point, but as you've indicated, Madam Chair, I mean, this is the first time we've seen a modular design and related requests. So please I do not wish to infer that you are trying to lead us down a garden path or anything else like that. But were we to grant this on the basis that you're going to be needing it because of modular, what if circumstances changed and you didn't go modular? I mean, I suppose in a sense, and I'm almost looking to city staff, or not city staff, sorry, committee of adjustment staff, is can a variance, we tie variances to plans, can a variance be tied to construction method if the rationale for the variance is based on the construction method? And maybe it's a question we don't have an answer to at this point, but it might be something that needs to be looked at. And if these sorts of requests come in the future, and again, please, I'm not in any way suggesting that you're arguing for this and going to do that. It just occurred to me as I was thinking about this.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, that's not something the committee has done in the past. We do tie to plans. We could tie strictly to plans rather than just as they relate to the requested variance. That would leave the applicant to file a building permit for exactly these plans he's filed here today.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. That's actually really good to know. Okay, any other questions? All right, I'd had just one, and it actually has to do with comments in the planning report regarding, and I may need Ms. Young's assistance here. So we have comments that says that the TIR must confirm that the excavation distance between the tree and the parking will meet established best practices. Otherwise, the parking must be shifted far enough away to meet this. So I guess I'm wondering whether or not that discussions occurred. Are we satisfied now that we don't need to change that, or where are we on those discussions?
Thank you for the question. The discussions haven't happened, but I did include some conditions that would cover it. So I don't think it's something, it doesn't relate to a variance or anything. So I think it's just something that needs to be considered through the next stage of the design.
All right, thank you, Ms. Young. And just following along then, you also have then another comment in your second paragraph that the planting plan must be revised to account for all required compensation trees. Can you just confirm that there's a condition that will satisfy that statement for you?
Yes, there is also a condition about the planting plan. So both of these should be covered.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on board with moving forward on that. Okay, any other questions at all? No? Just one back to Mr. Kelly then. You've had a chance to look at all the conditions?
That's correct.
Any issues with the conditions?
We agree with the conditions.
All right. Okay, perfect. So going to my speakers list, I don't have any member of the public, so I'm just going to do a general call out. Is there anyone in the audience or online who would like to speak to this application, either for or against? All right, I don't see anybody coming forward. Members of the panel, are we ready to make a decision?
Madam Chair, do we have the language of the condition regarding the fence worked out?
No, would you like to suggest some?
Or should we reserve to make sure we get that right?
Okay.
Madam Chair, we shouldn't discuss conditions in reserve that we don't discuss on the floor first. We would have to think about how that condition is cleared, what evidence would be needed, and who would be doing the clearance.
So, yeah, I agree. I think we need to be able to provide the applicant and the agent at this point with, with a reasonable idea of what that condition would entail and include. Sorry, Ms. O'Connell, go ahead, please.
Just a suggestion, Madam Chair, of what I've seen in the past is that the decision could be conditional upon a revised plan showing the fencing located on that revised plan. And then that would be possible to be cleared. That I respect the committee staff member's position that it's a difficult one for staff to clear because it's not something that can be implemented before the severance application is granted, the construction of the fence. So it's more of a change to show that their intention to construct.
I would agree with you, Ms. O'Connell, about that. So just back to Mr. Kelly then and the owner. Are you willing then to revise your plan? So the decision will be based on a revised plan that will show that fencing? Is that satisfactory?
I already have a binding written commitment with the nonprofit organization next door to place fence. So it's happening regardless.
It's just for our records and being able to track that. We were not a party, obviously, to that agreement that you have with the a nonprofit. So I guess the best way for this committee then would be to get that site plan revised. I'm just looking to see whether I can get confirmation that we will receive one.
If it's helpful, I've never built something without a fence being replaced and placed in the rear yard. So certainly standard construction for us, whatever gives the committee comfort.
All right, Mr.
Madam
Kelly.
Chair, if I can interrupt, I'm not sure how helpful in this case a revised site plan would be if we tie the decision to plans. The only variance is for building height. It doesn't really affect the site plan.
Okay, but I thought I heard that if we tied it strictly to plans, that would give us the coverage that we need.
In terms of the building, yes, but not in terms of the fence. That's not covered by building code services through the building permit process.
All right, so I'm sort of out of ideas at this point, so it
Madam
sounds
Chair,
like.
in the past, we have noted the applicant's agreement to construct a fence, and we've just put that in writing, and that's worked out in the past.
Perfect. Member Blatherwick, are you? Okay, sounds like that's how we're proceeding, so thank you for that. All right. Okay, we went out to the public. There wasn't anybody all right, so at this point, do we want to reserve on this still or just make a decision? All right, I'm going to call a vote then. All those in favor? All right, so it's unanimous. The applications, both the consent and the minor variance are granted. Thank you very much.
Just to confirm, Madam Chair, is it tied to dated plans or plans as they relate to the variance slot?
I'm looking to you then to see whether, like, for us, I would have said dated plans. It sounds like that might be the better way to go, but looking for your advice.
It's totally at the panel's discretion. Typically, we just say as they relate to the variance thought, and that way the applicant does have some flexibility to finalize the design.
Members of the committee, we good with that wording? Okay, I'm seeing agreement. Mr. Chown.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to echo the advice you have from the committee staff. I think tying it to the drawings as filed as opposed to tying to the drawings as they relate to the variances can create hardship, as I think everybody is aware down the road. If we change a window or change a door or something, we then end up having to come back to the committee, which would be most unfortunate.
So sorry, Mr. Chown, you're looking for wording then that would say, what would you?
Simply tie the variance to the plans as they relate to the variance. Your standard wording.
Okay, well, I think that's the direction we are going in, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, in that case, if that answers the question, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to, actually, I meant to go to application number 8. Yes. Yes, I know, I was into it. Oh, yes, so now we're at 8. And that's for 158 Deschamps and 200 to 10 to 12 Durocher. So, Mr. Littman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mitchell Leitman, agent for the applicant.
All right, so this application would have been fairly straightforward, but we're looking for, and why am I not finding it at the moment? Just some changes to the notice, if I understood things correctly. So we've got, we need to read these into the record.
Of course.
So for lot or severance B00069, with regards to the area, we are striking 354 square meters and replacing that with 348 square meters. Can you confirm that?
Yes, correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And I'll read to you the changes and you can just tell me that these are correct or make the corrections then. The retained lands shown as parts 4 and 5 on said plan will have a frontage of, and we're striking 10.36 and replacing it with 10.67 meters, and a regular depth of 30.16 meters, and a lot area of striking 312 and replacing with 318 square meters. Is that right?
That is right.
Perfect. So based on that, then we've done sort of our housekeeping. Any questions from the committee at all? No? So I'm just going to make a call. I don't believe there's anyone on my docket again here for this application. So anyone who would like to speak to the committee, either for or against the application, now's your chance. Not seeing anybody come forward. So Mr. Littman, any last words for you?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, then we can go to a vote. Members, all those in favor? Okay, for the record, it's unanimously granted. Thank you so much, Mr. Littman, for hanging in there with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye now. Okay, that brings me back to application now number 3, which is for 15 Clarendon Avenue, looking for agent CADA. Hello. Just your name for the record and municipal address. I'm not sure that your mic is on.
There we go. Okay. Amy Cata, and it's 529 Everett Avenue.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are requesting a presentation from you. So whenever you're ready, just proceed, please.
Okay. I sent one in. Perfect. All right, so we are applying for a minor variance to put an addition, front-facing garage on the side of the property, side of the house. I've just shown here what the existing house looks like now and the design, which includes a front-facing garage that is set back from the front of the house, as well as widening the front porch. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I've just identified, we've done the streetscape character analysis. There's 7 properties out of, I believe, 21 on the street that do have a front-facing attached garage, of which at least 2 of those have been approved with a minor variance in the last number of years, or at least since the current zoning bylaw has been in place. Next slide, please. So again, I've just shown the front elevation, and I don't necessarily know if you want me to go through. I've put in the letter how we've addressed the 4 tests of the Planning Act. In the comments from the planners, they've identified the streetscape character analysis as one of the reasons why the proposed design does not meet with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. And again, just highlighting the fact that the design has been considered and proposed by a design professional. It's set back, so it's not taking away from the dominance of the front entry. And the intention is to hide the vehicles inside the garage to take that away from. So they've made a comment about parking to be hidden from view to minimize the visual dominance of the automobiles on the streetscape. And on the next slide, please. It was brought to our attention that in 2005, about 20 years ago, the previous owners had widened the driveway to permit front yard parking. So we've submitted a revised site plan showing that we will remove the asphalt that was put in place in front of the house and reinstate soft landscaping. And then the next slides that follow are basically, we've received a number of letters of support from the neighbors. I'm not going to read them all, but I just wanted to represent the fact that I think there's about 8 letters of support we've received in the last number of days from the neighbors all on either side of the property, as well as on the other side of the street. And they're all in support of the design and appreciate the fact that it's been carefully considered and is in keeping with the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up to questions from the panel. Anyone? I just have one actually. So is there a garage today at all?
No garage right now. So as you can see from the first picture, they're currently parking on the driveway in front of the house. Okay, so can we have that picture, that slide that had the varying examples of other houses with a front-facing garage? Not that one. Yeah, I think was it this one? Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned in your presentation that some of these had received recently permission or approval from the committee for front-facing garage in the context of the current zoning. Do you know which ones offhand those would be? Yes, definitely. So on the right-hand side, there's the new house that's in the middle. So I can't tell what number. I think that's 37. And then I believe 15. So top left. That one's recent as well.
All right, both of those fronting on the same street. Is that
They
correct?
are, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Clarendon. Okay.
Yeah, the one on the top left there, which is 14, is right across the street from 15 Clarendon.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask the question of staff then on this, because we had some applications recently for which there were no concerns about a front-facing garage. Is it Mr. Gilnert? Would you mind providing us with some insight? Thank you.
Sure. So I can't speak to the past applications where they would have been approved, but in this specific circumstance, this property is located within an evolving neighborhood overlay that speaks to transitioning these neighborhoods from a more suburban form to a more urban form. Then if you look at there's a table within the official plan that goes over those characteristics that fall within more of a suburban criteria versus an urban criteria, which the urban criteria would exclude garages within that characteristic in terms of what it wants to feature within the neighborhood.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, there was another question I had with regards to part of the report that says, should the application be approved, staff are recommending a portion of the driveway that's located in the front yard be reinstated. And so that we heard is going to happen. All right, so instead of a minor variance, I was just made a note to myself, how are we resolving this? And you've already answered the question. Thank you, that you will reinstate. Okay, that's it for my questions. Anyone else on the panel? I'm not seeing anyone else come forward. I don't believe that there's anyone registered to speak. So is there anyone in the audience today or online who would like to speak to this application? I am not seeing anyone. So members of the panel, do we want to reserve on this one? Yes. All right, we have a member who'd like to reserve. So what that means, and I'd like to give you first off a chance, any final words on this before we move on?
I think the only other thought that comes to mind is and I understand that you have to make the decision based on the current zoning bylaw, is that with the draft plan that's come out, the intention is to move away from the mature heritage overlay. So the homeowners have made a great effort to design something that's in keeping with the neighborhood to improve the overall property. And they'd like to go ahead with the project this year. And if they'd waited a year, then likely they wouldn't have had to apply for a minor variance. So
yeah, we've heard.
I'm sure you've heard that before.
I just, you did raise something for me that I caught when you were doing your presentation. So when I look at some of the examples that you gave with the front-facing garage, they have peaked roofs for the most part. And in yours, you have recommended, or you're proposing a flat roof. Can you tell me why?
I cannot, because I'm not a design professional. We've got a designer who's come up with the plan. I know that it's a consideration that the homeowners have looked at doing a peak roof, and I could not speak to that today in terms of why they've made that decision, but it's a design decision. I think I can't. I think the idea is to complement the house without trying to make it look like an add-on. So it's a design decision that they've come up with.
Madam Chair, we do have a Jeremy Hughes online who has his hand raised.
Ah, thank you. Can we bring him in? Because we did not see that. Mr. Hughes? Hello. You,
I thought I would just jump in since there was some questions specifically about the decision making on the flat roof versus peaked roof, if that pleases the committee.
Sorry, can I have your municipal address, and are you?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm the homeowner. So Jeremy Hughes Ausorin is my full name, at 15 Clarendon Avenue, the property in question.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, in terms of the design of the garage being a peaked roof versus flat roof, or incorporating some of the other design features that you see on the comparable properties that have been approved in recent years, including in some cases a full extension right up to the second floor that really increases the sort of frontage of the building and is I would say dominant in terms of the design plan. Our intention with the garage was to have a sort of understated addition to the house. So trying intentionally to not have it look like it was permanently part of the house, not trying to incorporate it up to the full 3-story height of the house, having it set back a little bit from the front of the house to keep it as a secondary attribute of the house. And that also was part of our thinking in the design of the front porch. So currently the front porch takes up approximately the middle third of the frontage of the house. And the design that we're working with now has the porch expanded over to the north edge of the frontage of the house in order to facilitate more community living, more being on the porch. And I know that was one of the characteristics and concerns that was raised in the report from the staff of the committee, which we appreciate. It's certainly our intention to continue to use the house as more of an urban versus suburban dwelling, where we do most of our living out front and on the street. And I think as you can see from the submissions that were made by all of our adjacent neighbors, most of the ones within that section of the street, there's plenty of support for the design that we've put forward, with many of them remarking that the design does seem to be thoughtful and understated for the garage, in keeping with the characteristics of the neighborhood. So I'm confident that the committee will take a look at the supportive submissions made by our neighbors, and hope that you see it the same way we do.
All right, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. All right, going to member Lecuyer.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. My question is actually, before we reserve, is back to the planning department. So I think Madam Chair asked about, someone on the panel asked about the forward-facing garage and the differences of what planning and staff had said previously. And so I actually pulled, it was actually from last hearing, there were 2 applications for forward-facing garages where the city said they had no concerns. But then I checked what you said about was it the evolving neighborhood overlay was the rationale?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so of the 2 applications that we heard last round, one of them has an evolving neighborhood overlay, and the city said they had no concerns. And then now you're saying that you have concerns, not some concerns, concerns. And then in the 5, which we'll hear later, you say that you have some concerns about the forward-facing garage. So I'm a bit puzzled by the mixed signals. Can you help clarify?
Thank you, Madam Lecuyer. So these essentially these provisions, it's really important to review them on a site-by-site basis. In some cases, despite the streetscape character analysis, I was the planner for 196 Clare, which is the one I believe you're referring to from 2 weeks ago. And so in that case, even though the dominant character of the streetscape character analysis didn't permit front-facing attached garages, throughout the review and using Google Maps, it was very clear that there was essentially front yard parking on the city right of way that was like legal front yard parking. And so because of that, the actual character of the streetscape played into our decision to raise no concerns, because it was essentially like there was front yard parking along most of the street, if that makes sense. Whereas in this context, it still maintained that urban feel where the visual impact of parking was minimal.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yep. So to add to Ms. Horn's comments, this is really a question about having parking within the front yard. By locating the attached garage, they'll be able to permit to have parking spaces in front of the main building, whereas this is a specific lot where it's 450 plus square meters in area, and there's ample room to have a detached garage located within the rear yard that is led by a driveway entrance. So really, that's the question that's being asked today to the committee.
But then the trade-off would be more hard landscaping of having a longer driveway and a driveway in the back.
While that's true, yes, it will allow vehicles to be parked within the rear yard so that they're not as visible from the streets and doesn't deter from what we're trying to achieve within these neighborhoods.
And so if the applicant is willing to give up this, I don't know if it was legal or non-conform, I have no idea, but that front yard parking that they're saying that they're going to remove, that didn't factor into the consideration, whereas in the example of Clare, it kind of did. So I'm not a planner, but I just see a lot of, and maybe it's not something that we can answer, but it's just, these applications aren't going away. And to have some concerns, and no concerns, what looks like visually similar applications when the narratives from the planning department are much shorter than they used to be. So thank you so much for providing this added context. It is helpful, but and maybe Aaron would like to add.
All right, Ms. O'Connell, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I take the committee member's point, and I think this is worth a discussion internally amongst planners and myself and James to discuss about which applications and our consistent positions. So I think it's something we'll take back, those comments, and they're well founded. And I know it's not up to the committee for consideration, but we're well aware of the direction that the new zoning bylaw is headed in that respect too. And so just to say, I take your point about potential lack of consistency amongst the comments, and we'll address that.
All right, just to pull a little bit more on that thread, though, I want to go back to Mr. Gildart then. So in this case, we've already established that we're going to wind up removing or eliminating that front street parking space. Do you know if there are many other houses on that street? So we heard from Ms. Horn that was at part of her decision-making process in reviewing the application. Can you tell us a little bit about the front yard parking context on that street today?
Was that for me? I couldn't tell if you were saying my name or somebody else's name.
Yes, it's for you, Mr. Gildart.
It is for me.
Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I would say on our street that certainly more than 50%, maybe as much as 2/3 of the residents park their car on the driveway
Mr.
in
Hughes?
front. Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Can I just get an answer from staff, please?
Oh,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
having
I
that
thought you
discussion
were
with
saying
them
that. Okay.
first.
Yep.
I didn't realize, I didn't even realize it was you that was was speaking. So I'll come back to you. Just like to hear from staff, please.
Okay.
Of course. So the only tool that we have right now as planners to determine front yard parking is going to be the streetscape character analysis. And the way that is written today is that we look at the 21 nearest properties. Out of the 21 nearest properties, 7 have front facing, have garages or front yard parking. Meanwhile, 14 do not within that scope. If we extend the 21 properties to the entirety of that street, all facing, all facing Clarendon, then there are 25 properties. Again, 7 only have front yard or an attached garage within that scope. Again, we're extending the scope of the study and we're supposed to look at the 21 nearest properties, which then leads to 14 with no garages or front yard parking. Meanwhile, 7 would.
Oh, sorry. How many have either legal or illegal front yard parking?
7.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So just to give us an idea, then comparability is really what I was after. All right. Back to you, Mr. Hughes. Sorry. I was concentrating on staff there. So go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize too for jumping in there out of turn. Anecdotally, from our experience being on the street and obviously knowing our neighbors quite well, I would say certainly more than 50%. And if I had to bet, I would say probably closer to 2/3 of our neighbors on Clarendon between Wellington and Byron park at the front of the house. Whether or not they have a garage, and I would say actually particularly if they don't have a garage, they are parking, we and our neighbors park at the front of the house. So part of our hope in this is that we can disappear our car into the garage and to help, I think, improve the walkability and the characteristics of the neighborhood that the committee's staff are highlighting in their report, which I appreciate. I don't want our neighborhood to turn into a suburb. It's a thriving urban community, and particularly on our block within steps of Wellington. It's not our intention at all, and we only own 1 car. So with that garage, our car will be tucked away the majority of the time. And in the absence of a garage, it will stay where we currently park it, between the sidewalk and the front of the house, even if it's on the driveway portion. That's going to remain after we return the softscaping. So that is how we've seen it. It's a genuine effort to improve our quality of life, but also to improve the look and feel of the neighborhood with a focus on that sort of community vibe that I know is important to the city and certainly important to our neighbors and friends, as you'll see in the submissions that they've made.
All right, thank you for those comments. They're appreciated. All right, we're going to make one last call out for more questions. One last call for anybody else who would like to address the committee. Okay, now I will, Ms. Kata, sorry. I'll give you just a couple of minutes, another chance to wrap up because we've had additional discussion.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. I'm not entirely sure what reserve means, but I would say that going back to the points that have been raised, just understanding from our perspective, the difference between the other houses on the street where the minor variance has been approved for the same request. And when I look at the evolving neighborhood overlay and the comments that are made, the emphasis is on a strong built form relationship with the public realm, which again is the focus with extending that front porch, keeping the proposed attached front facing garage recessed behind the front of the building. And then, so we're keeping the prominent front entrance and windows. And then we talk about parking to be hidden to minimize the visual dominance of automobiles within the streetscape. And all those items are ones that we've made an effort to consider in the design. And I think it's a really good point actually that was made about the alternative being a detached garage at the back of the building, which would actually increase the hardscaping as opposed to the softscaping. So keeping all that in mind, and just ask the committee to look at it from those points of view, and that's all. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kata. So reserved essentially means that we will take a few more minutes after we adjourn the whole of the hearing. We will then reconvene and deliberate a little bit further on this application in order to make a decision. But a decision will be made today, and you will get that written decision and the reasons for it within 10 days.
Okay, wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to our last application today, which is number 5, 482 Kensington Avenue, looking for Agent Poloni. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, panel. My name is Yassam Bahadouri, and I will be presenting this application on behalf of the property owner with Ms. Jasmine Paoloni, who also assisted on this file. And our address is 2200 Thurston Drive, Unit 203, Ottawa. So we have prepared a presentation in support of this application. If the coordinator could put it up on the screen. Thank you.
Yeah, we do want a presentation. And all right, so Lisa Brancati is who?
She's the owner.
Okay, and Turan?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, can you provide me with your names again? Because I'm trying to find them.
Yassam Bahadouri. Do you want me to spell?
Yes, please.
My first name is Basaman, and last name is Bahadori. Bahadori.
Bedori?
Yeah.
All right. Right. Okay.
Okay. So this application is for 482 Kensington Avenue to request 2 minor variances related to the front-facing attached garage of a new 2-story detached dwelling. Next slide, please. So the site is located in the inner urban transit and is designated as a neighborhood. Next slide, please. The site is zoned R1MM exception 762, and this zone permits single detached dwellings. Next slide, please. So these are the side photos for the property showing existing frontage and also the mature tree at the front that is being preserved, and also the side yards of the property. Next slide, please. This is the survey plan showing the property's boundary in red and also the existing dwelling. Next slide, please. This is the site plan showing the proposed two-story dwelling, driveway, and the garage entrance, and also the location of the mature tree to remain at the front yard. Next slide. So these are the front and rear elevations, and most important here is the front elevation, featuring that the garage is integrated into the design with the main entrance raised and projected forward. The garage is recessed behind and the entryway, and also minimizing its presence and helping ensure the residential entrance remains the focal point. Next slide. These are the right and left elevations. You can see the right side elevation also highlights the prominence of the main entry and also the retained mature tree, both of which help buffer and soften the visual impact of the garage. Next slide, please. This is the tree information report, which confirms that the front yard tree will be preserved with the driveway curved around its root zone, and while the two rear yard trees will be removed to allow for a future pool and a gazebo. Next slide, please. So this is the streetscape character analysis, and based off the pictures that you're looking at, 9 out of 20 properties in the analysis area feature front-facing attached garages, including the budding property at 209 Iona Street. And based on the findings of the streetscape character analysis, variances are required to permit the proposed front-facing attached garages. Next slide, please. So in addition to the 9 properties within the streetscape character analysis area that features front-facing attached garages, which highlighted in green, there are 2 more properties along Kensington Avenue with similar configuration. Specifically, property 450 was excluded from the analysis because its garage face side street, which was Wesley Avenue. Additionally, 436 Kensington Avenue, located just outside of the streetscape character analysis boundary, also features a front-facing attached garage. So while these garages are not the dominant streetscape characteristic, their presence demonstrates that front-facing garages are not uncommon in the surrounding context. Next slide. So we are requesting 2 variances related to a single front-facing attached garage under section 139 and 140 of the zoning bylaw. Both sections states that a front-facing garage is only permitted when it's the dominant characteristic of the streetscape. And regarding the 4 test of a minor variance, the variances are modest and don't result in any undue adverse impacts. The garage is well integrated into the design, and its visual impact is mitigated through architectural features, elevation changes, landscaping, and the retention of a mature tree. Regarding test 2, the proposal is desirable and appropriate as this is a compatible low-rise residential use that fits within the Kensington Avenue context. Also, the proposed materials, height, roof line, and massing are in keeping with surrounding dwellings. So the design meets the homeowner's long-term needs while contributing positively to the street's appearance. Regarding test 3, staff raised concern about maintaining the intent of the official plan, and we want to address those here. So the proposal aligned with official plan policies in section 4.1 relating to mobility, section 4.6 relating to urban and site design, and also section 5.2 relating to the inner urban transit. So the inner urban transit policies in section 5.2 prioritize a pedestrian-friendly environment, and the design support that intent in several ways, like the driveway is narrow and carefully curved to preserve the existing tree. The garage is recessed and occupies just a small portion of the front facade. The front entrance is prominent, elevated, and emphasized through window size and architectural treatment. The landscaping softens the hard surface and maintain visual continuity, and also there is no surface parking. The garage is internalized and pedestrian access is uninterrupted. Also, the garage doesn't erode the public realm. It's been designed to respect the balance between access and streetscape quality, consistent with official policy sections 4.14, 4.65, and 5.2. And regarding test 4, the proposed variances maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw by preserving the detached residential form and ensuring the garage remains visually secondary to the main entrance with design and landscaping, minimizing its impact on the streetscape. And notably, draft version of the new zoning bylaw proposed to remove the streetscape character analysis test, meaning this design would be probably permitted under the future regulatory framework. Thank you, and we are available for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you for that presentation. I just have a question for Ms. Horn, and it's a bit of a housekeeping one here. So our notice talks about a minor variance to permit front-facing attached garage. In the report and in the presentation, we heard that there are 2 minor variances required. So one is affecting section 140, 8A, and the other one, section 139.3. So I just want to be very clear for notice purposes and for the record, what minor variance or variances are we looking at? Just want to make sure they're accurate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. So as the application was reviewed based off of allowing a variance to permit a front-facing attached garage, which I can get the section number for you in just a second.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure it's not, because as you know, the notice went out, the way it reads, it seems to be 1 variance. And the report in the presentation indicates 2 variances. And you know what problem that can cause for us from a notice standpoint. So I'm just trying to make sure we're not into a recirculation situation.
Maybe we can shed some light into the variance, if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay, so our understanding, because we have had applications in front of this committee before asking for the same design feature, a front-facing attached garage that differs from the streetscape character analysis findings. And we've been advised by staff that we need to apply for variances from 2 different sections, but essentially the variance is for the same thing. It's just mentioned in 2 different parts of the zoning bylaw. So in section 140, where it specifically discusses the mature neighborhoods overlay, and then in section 139 for the low-rise residential development within the green belt. But essentially the variance requested is the same in both sections.
All right, so I just want to make sure the wording is correct. So back to Ms. Horn then. So we know what the intent based on the notice advises, but which, for the purposes of this particular application, would be either which one is more correct, or is it actually both? Are we varying? My understanding then is there's 2 sections under the zoning bylaw that require variances. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It is both, as the applicant said, and they both are mentioned in the application form. So the notice is correct. It would cover both.
Okay, the application doesn't talk about, you know how we always have A and B, for example? This does not have an A and B. This has just to permit a front-facing attached garage. Normally, we're very specific about, each variance and what that varies. So I'm going to go back over to committee staff here and get some advice. So would, in your opinion, the notice and what's being applied for align, or are we offside here?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, they align. There's 2 separate sections of the zoning bylaw that both talk to front-facing garages, and the applicant did apply to both sections. It's on their application form. The way we word the notice, we don't specifically say the section number that applies to. We just say the relief that's needed, like the intent. So that wording on the notice actually applies to both sections.
Is there any other situations where we have more than, we use wording that covers one variance? I'm thinking maybe about some of the heritage areas or something like that. Like because for me, it's unusual that we wouldn't specifically add a variance for each section of the bylaw that requires variances.
We see this on other applications for front-facing garages quite often, and we don't list the same variance twice, like A and B would be worded exactly the same as you have it, and that can cause confusion to the general public. So we just list the relief once.
Even though it affects two different sections of the zoning bylaw.
That's right.
Okay, I learn something every day. So that's good. All right. So no recirculation, that's the good news. Any questions from any of the panel members on this application? Okay. I think we had a lot of discussion about front-facing garages in the previous application. So with that, then I will go to my list. And again, I don't have anybody signed up. Is there anybody left in the audience or anybody online who would like to speak to the committee about this application? Now's your chance. All right, not seeing anybody come forward. With that, then I'm going to give you ladies, I guess, Miss, and I did find your names on this list, which is where I should have looked in the first place, Miss Poloni and Miss Bahadori. Any final words from you?
Yeah, sure. So to conclude, this proposal represents a modest and well-integrated design that maintains the intent of both the official plan and zoning bylaw. The garage is well integrated, visually secondary, and designed to preserve the pedestrian-friendly character of the streetscape. Similar garages also exist nearby and are quite common in the area, and the proposal aligned with the direction of the draft new zoning bylaw. Also for the young family that want to live here, the garage is essential for safe, secure access, especially when loading and unloading children. And also, as I stated in our cover letter, we respectfully request the Committee of Adjustment authorize the requested variance in accordance with the plans filed as they relate to the variances being requested. And finally, we believe the variances are reasonable, appropriate, and meet all four tests. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're reserving on the last one. So I'm going to assume we're reserving on this one as well. So as I indicated to the previous speaker, you'll get your decision within the 10-day limit. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if there's no other business, Member Coakley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to advise the panel members that this will be my last meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. Ironically, almost 30 years later, my partner and I are moving to Charlottetown again. We will be putting our place here in Ottawa on the market in the next week or so. And I feel as a result, it's sort of inappropriate for me to continue to sit as a member of the Committee of Adjustment when I am fully planning to leave the province again, leave the city and the province, and move to Charlottetown. So I would just like to thank you, Madam Chair, and my colleagues on this committee, this panel, plus the other panel members. It's been a really interesting and fulfilling experience. I'd also like to thank our Secretary Treasurer isn't in the room, but I did speak to him briefly before we came here. For the support that we've had from the staff. I think we have a very good team that supports us. I've appreciated it. And I guess as well, I'd just like to thank the representatives of the city who appear regularly before us and put up with our probing questions sometimes, and you probably think occasionally, I told him that last time. But I would like to thank you all for for the very good experience I've had over the last, I think it's probably about 18 months, getting on for 2 years now.
Thank you, Member Coakley. And I'd like to say I'm sorry to see you go, but I do want to thank you for your participation and contributions to this committee. It's been very much appreciated. And again, really sorry to see you go, and wish you all the best as you move forward in life's endeavors. So Okay, well, with that then, I think we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.